Well, hey everyone, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. I hope you're having an amazing day today. And today's episode is brought to you by the truly amazing ground control Cyclops Brewer. This is a revolutionary brewer that really elevates your batch brew coffee above pour-over quality at scale. It is the winner of the SCA's Best New Product Award, and the ground control Cyclops Brewer gives you unprecedented control over such a wide range of flavors that you might not have even thought were possible to get from your coffee, because no doubt you've tried lots of different ways to brew it. But this machine can alter the way that your coffee is presented in ways, again, that are just, they're mind-blowing. And I've tasted them myself, and I have to say, the proof is in the tasting, and it really was an extraordinary experience. This is used by some of the best operators out there, and the machine is really easy to use and train your staff on. So if you really want to get the most out of your coffee, set your shop apart, all while being able to visually engage your customers, then you're going to want to get a ground control Cyclops Brewer in your store. To learn more, go to vogacoffee.com. That's VOGA coffee.com. Or if you want an opportunity to taste your coffee on the ground control Cyclops Brewer, you can visit them at the SCA Expo in Portland. If you happen to be going out that way, they're at booth 2361. You can bring your coffee by and see what the brewer can do to, coax some magic from your coffee. Again, find out more information, vogacoffee.com. All right, so today we're going to be talking about fear and trust. And these are two things that we find in the coffee shop a lot in the mentality of a manager and an owner, because oftentimes as the owner, especially if you're just starting out, you don't have a manager, you're just everything, you do it all. So what we end up having is, it's easy to get into a mindset of fear and scarcity when you're dealing with people. I find this often when I go to Coffee Fest. There's a lot of people that have their menu down, they have their space down, they have all the drawings. It's not easy. I won't say it's easy, but once you get it, you feel really good about it. And you tend to really rejoice in the inanimate objects. And you are so proud and so confident a lot of times. When it comes together, it's, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but at least there are some ways you can fix that. But the scary thing, and the thing that people tend to avoid a lot, is dealing with people. And this is why oftentimes hiring is one of the most under thought through things in the coffee bar, and you reap the consequences of this later on. You have a perfect bar, but then you have all these cultural issues. So dealing with people can be a pretty scary thing, especially if you're not prepared for it, because there's a lot of unknowns. So again, if you're a leader and or a manager, the challenge is to be balanced in your perspective, because it could be intimidating, but it doesn't mean that you need to base your interactions with people out of fear, which I think is what we tend to do. Part of the managerial role and part of the role of the owner is to think about what could happen and plan for it. Think about your systems and have a plan B or a plan C. And in doing that, what you're sort of doing is maybe you're low-key catastrophizing things, like what could go wrong with this grinder? Do I have parts on hand to replace, if it goes down? Or do I have enough staff that if one calls off sick that, I have somebody to cover it, or will the manager be able to cover it? There's a lot of questions, thousands and thousands of questions that you can ask yourself. And what you end up doing is constantly living in a state of what if. And because of that, you can go so far in that direction that it becomes paranoia, that it becomes every person is a potential saboteur of your business. And in my talk at Coffee Fest, it's one of the top 10 ways to lose employees. In that's the name of my talk. One of my talks at Coffee Fest is to basically treat people like criminals. Treat them like they've done something wrong right from the beginning, and that you're not viewing them as somebody who has potential, but as somebody who is potential problems to you. And you can see this in a lot of cafes, and I've worked for people like this, and I've heard stories where people will even come out and say it. They'll almost accuse people of thinking about stealing from them or purposefully sabotaging the drink so that customers won't come back. And this is all in a mindset that has been so mired in the what ifs that it's turned into everyone's out to get me. Okay, that is managing and leading out of fear and self-preservation, and it's not realism, it's anything but real. Because most people want to do a good job. Even the people that you think aren't your best employees, they still deep down want to do a good job, believe it or not. So we can err too much on that side of things because by necessity, we kind of have to live there a little bit, but it can go overboard and you can become somebody who puts together really scary sounding manuals where it becomes like, ooh, I don't even know if I want to work here after reading all this. Stringent regulations, overbearing speech. It is easy to see when you're working for somebody who is operating out of not a generous spirit, but a scarcity and fear spirit. So there's that's one side of the coin. The other side is trust. Okay. And I want to say that this is not something that is the absence of protection. You're not letting your guard down necessarily because let's face it, there are terrible people out there. And I've known plenty of coffee bars to have people steal from the register and give away food to their friends. This is why we have systems and we have safeguards. It's just one of those parts of working with people. But that doesn't mean that you don't also have to embrace trust, because without embracing trust, you don't get a thriving culture. You don't get happy baristas and happy staff. You get a joyless coffee bar that people want to escape from. In this business, even in your most amazing interview moment where you hired the best barista, there's still an element of unknown there. There's still risk. And that's kind of what we think we can do, is get rid of some of the risk involved in hiring and working with people through our systems, but you're never going to be fully away from risk and taking a chance on somebody. But in giving people the benefit of the doubt, or as Danny Meyer says, giving some charitable assumption to people that they want to do a good job and that given the opportunity to grow and thrive versus crash and burn, they're going to choose the latter. They're not going to choose to crash and burn. So you do have to trust your employees. You give them keys to the building. You have them do cash outs in the register. You have them represent your brand to your customers. And it feels like, oh man, you know what I'm talking about. It feels like trust. and that feeling is coming against that part of you that wants to plan and get rid of risk. But there's always a tension there. We're kind of living in the middle of giving trust, charitable assumption, and also being smart and planning systems for accountability. On the side of trust, though, let me say that we can err too far on that, and we can turn trust into negligence. The way that Bruce Tulgan talks about this is that it's, the excuse of, I'm just a hands-off manager and I don't give any direction. And then people just take direction of their own. And so then we leave ourselves open to be disappointed by people's performance. We also end up becoming pretty naive and getting ripped off by people sometimes by not having standards or vetting people in the hiring process or tracking product or training properly. Many managers let people take advantage of them and the business, and many owners do this because they don't want people to not like them. They want to be cool, they want to be friendly, but it doesn't pan out in the end to just avoid this because you hate conflict. The middle ground here between these two things is to embrace the fact that you are neither a prison guard or a best friend. You are a manager. It's a professional relationship. It's a business. Everybody expects accountability, and they even want it. Everyone also expects to be treated like adults and to be trusted to a reasonable degree and to be given some autonomy and opportunity to develop themselves as professionals with the support of their owners and the leaders in the coffee shop. So I would encourage you to take a look at the big picture here. Don't let fear of what ifs stifle the development of your people and your business. And I see this happen too often, and you may kind of veer into this territory now and again. Just be aware that the pull is always there to one side or another, mainly I think to the fear side, but both exist in our industry. Realize that you're there, like we said in our last episode, to be an advocate, to be a facilitator of success. In this professional capacity, you have the ability to invest in systems of accountability and in systems that will empower people to grow and thrive in your coffee shop. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you. Just some thoughts that I wanted to share. And maybe we'll get to meet you in New York, and we'll go over the rest of the top 10 ways that you will lose staff unnecessarily, and that this was, one less way for you in your shop. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.